Celebrity chef Giada De Laurentiis is a household name for anyone who's a fan of Food Network. The Italian-born and raised chef has amassed a huge fan base over the last 2 decades, using her Roman roots and impressive culinary skills to inspire audiences all over the world. Her easygoing charm and megawatt smile don't hurt either. Since joining Food Network back in 2002, De Laurentiis has hosted several different shows, published a huge stack cookbooks, and opened 3 restaurants, among other accomplishments. During that time, De Laurentiis also got married, had a daughter, and subsequently got divorced. This is the first in a planned series called Still the Best, where I compare older games against popular newcomers in the same genre. At New York Comic Con in October, minutes before the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse panel was due to begin, the pre-panel MC attempted to warm up the crowd with a simple question: which is better, Batman, Arkham or Marvel's Spider-Man? The crowd response was mixed, surprising, considering all the Spidey costumes at Madison Square Garden that day, with about half going for Rocksteady's Batman series and the remaining half opting for the web-slinging PS4 exclusive. I remained quiet, having played only the Arkham games. Now, a couple of months later, with Spider-Man under my belt, I can say confidently that Batman, Arkham, specifically, Arkham Asylum, is the superior game. With her fans following every step of the way. Throughout her career, De Laurentiis has been known to talk a lot about her family and the people she loves to cook for, giving her audience glimpses of her life both in and out of the kitchen. In fact, 9 years after the fact, Arkham Asylum remains the very best superhero game, Spider-Man's critical and commercial successes notwithstanding. I realize this will take some convincing. So it's no surprise that questions continue to circulate about the current love interest in her life. So who is Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend? Let's find out. Giada De Laurentiis has been dating Shane Farley since 2015. Giada De Laurentiis has been in a relationship with 48-year-old Shane Farley for the last 5 years. First, Asylum is not typically considered the best of the Arkham series. That honor goes to its open-world sequel Arkham City, so how could it possibly be the greatest superhero game? Second, Spider-Man is the flavor du jour, fresh in the minds of fans, and beloved for its admittedly excellent aerial locomotion, close-quarters combat, and suit customization options. Yet there is a case to be made for Asylum over all challengers, in terms of pacing, atmosphere, and general game structure. While the couple was somewhat tight-lipped about their relationship in the beginning, De Laurentiis has since opened up about what it was like to move on from her first marriage, and how happy she is dating Farley. In short, the semi-linear Metroidvania structure of Batman, Arkham Asylum is superior in execution to the open-ended urban sandbox composition of its sequels and 2018's superhero darling. What most people pinpoint as a positive transition, the movement away from semi-linear gameplay in Asylum to a full-blown open-world experience in City and its sequels, I identify as a step backwards. In 2018, she told People magazine that Farley made her feel like a kid again. De Laurentiis called Farley spontaneous, and said he loves to laugh, which is one of her favorite things about their relationship. Since then, the couple has been spotted vacationing together, spending holidays together, and hanging out with family, including De Laurentiis' 12-year-old daughter, Jade. The series transformed in a couple of years from a lean, efficient, semi-structured action-adventure into a relatively formless sandbox game, with a lot of busy work and an abundance of so-called artificial game lengtheners. Now, that's not to say that an open-world experiment is inherently inferior. Rather, it's all about execution. In the case of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, developer Rocksteady executed the former's interlocking hub-and-spoke layout more effectively than the latter's open-ended urban sprawl. By focusing on a single, smallish setting, the bleak, gothic Arkham Asylum, Rocksteady achieved wonders in storytelling, both verbal and non-verbal, setting, atmosphere, pacing, and, most importantly, gameplay. The Asylum is a character in itself, claustrophobic and dynamic. Revisiting locations across Asylum grounds at different periods throughout the night reveals decay, graffiti, etc., and a playground, sitting firmly in the Goldilocks zone between too linear and too amorphous, that allows guided progression, passive world building, and the freedom to explore and backtrack with upgraded skills and devices should you as the player see fit. The couple even worked together on the newest season of De Laurentiis' Food Network show, Giada at Home.
Rocksteady might have improved things mechanically and technically in City and its open-world follow-ups, but never again did it capture the focused fun of Asylum. Moreover, Asylum has a handful of unique boss encounters that help it rise above others in the Arkham canon, even if, admittedly, City boasts the best boss fight in the series, Mr. Freeze. In the grimy halls of Arkham Asylum, under the spell of Scarecrow's fear toxin, Batman must navigate his way through a series of obstacle courses set in a nightmare world. Later, in one of the most breathless and suspenseful episodes in modern gaming, the Dark Knight must move stealthily across flimsy, floating boards as a man-eating monster swims beneath the surface. While Arkham City opened up the franchise, geographically and mechanically, it lost some of the intentionality of Asylum. So who exactly is Shane Farley, and how did he and De Laurentiis spark a romance? Turns out it's all thanks to showbiz. Shane Farley is an award-winning talk show producer. Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley is a television producer and a well-known figure in the world of daytime talk shows. Yes, its art direction and graphical horsepower are astounding. Sure, its combat system and locomotion options clearly more evolved than its predecessor. Yet for all its good points, Mr. Freeze included, City delivers an uneven open-world adventure. Apart from its preposterous premise, don't get me started on Quincy Sharp's ascension to mayor or the city's acquiescence to an open-air maximum security prison in its backyard. The game suffers from something that infects many modern large-scale action games: bloat. City boasts more villains, more Riddler trophies, 440, up from 240, more side quests, more real estate, more everything, but comes up against an imbalance between meaningful activities and challenges and what amounts to inessential filler. He's been in the business more than 20 years and worked closely with several celebrities including Wayne Brady, Rosie O'Donnell, Tyra Banks, and not to mention the hundreds of guests who have appeared on the shows he's produced. One of his claims to fame actually includes working with another celebrity chef, Rachel Ray. Sure, there's an entire city at your wingtips, but much of it will simply be glided or mantled over unthinkingly, as players send the Caped Crusader back and forth among main mission points. Farley was a supervising producer on her self-titled daytime talk series for 6 years. During that time, Farley won 2 Emmys and was nominated for 3 more with the show, before leaving in 2011. Again, there's nothing wrong per se with extra content and space, but in order to be valuable it must be content worth absorbing, space worth exploring. In Arkham City, only sporadically is the actual city worth the effort. Spider-Man is the heir apparent. Like it or not, fans and critics will forever compare Rocksteady's work with Arkham to Insomniac game's Spider-Man. Then in 2017, Farley was tapped to executive produce Steve Harvey's new syndicated talk show, Steve, which ran until the summer of 2019. Most recently, Farley has been helping produce De Laurentiis' newest Food Network project, Giada at Home 2.0. The show features De Laurentiis, often with daughter Jade, whipping up the family-friendly recipes they've been making while hunkering at home during the COVID-19 pandemic. Working in TV has always been Shane Farley's dream job. Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley told Dream Jobbing that he knew he wanted to be a TV producer from the time he was a kid, but he didn't exactly have a clear path set out for him. Farley grew up in Hampton, New Jersey, and didn't have any connections in the TV industry to help him get started. The former is the series that legitimized licensed superhero games and the latter its heir apparent. His mom was a teacher, and his dad served as the town mayor at one point. In that comparison, 2018's PlayStation 4 exclusive emerges the victor, at least in 3 out of 4 matchups. While it might not outclass the game that started it all, Spider-Man stands as a superior sandbox experiment weighed against City in its sequels Arkham Knight and Arkham Origins, the latter developed not by Rocksteady but rather WB Games Montreal. It helps that Spider-Man as a hero makes more sense in an open-world environment. Whereas the small-scale stealth action and problem-solving of Asylum is a great match for Batman, a mortal hero whose brain is arguably his greatest asset, the same cramped, cerebral setting would be a liability for Spider-Man. No, Spidey belongs in the spaces among skyscrapers. While Spider-Man comes closest to unseating Arkham Asylum, it ultimately fails to eclipse the more structured comic book caper. This is due in part to the game falling into open-world traps straight out of the Ubisoft playbook, and in part to some unforced errors of its own.
Now, to be fair, Insomniac's take on the superhero genre features several positive things. Keep in mind I consider it the second best of its kind. Apart from its deep, flexible suit customization options, which allow players to dress Spidey in almost 30 comic book and movie-inspired costumes, the game boasts a more evolved, more aerial, more cinematic version of the combat framework Rocksteady crafted. The costumed web-slinger moves across the ground, off buildings, and through empty space graciously and seamlessly, chaining together spectacular combos, firing off special web-based attacks, and interacting with environmental fixtures. This latter point is perhaps the game's most impressive feat. The coders at Insomniac worked miracles, in combat and in player locomotion, to make Spidey interact with the game world in the way you'd expect. Regardless, Farley says he knew what he wanted to do, so he applied like crazy, put himself out there, and eventually it paid off. A thrown post box cuts through the clutter of battle and hits its mark, a web bad guy sticks to the lamp post behind him, etc., etc. Rarely does a body fly off with no purpose, almost never does Spider-Man hit a wall and bounce off helplessly, breaking immersion. Farley says he managed to land a job working on the Joan Rivers show right out of high school, and his career continued to grow from there. To this day, when asked about how he got to where he is in his career, Farley talks about the importance of taking risks and initiative to get noticed. It seems like that attitude has paid off in more ways than one for Farley. Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley was inspired by Johnny Carson and David Letterman. In an interview with Dream Jobber, Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley said he was actually inspired to pursue the world of television after watching late-night icons like Johnny Carson and David Letterman. There's a theatricality to almost everything in Spider-Man. Of course, that mindfulness translates to the urban locomotion that won over so many fans in 2018. Swinging, crawling, wall running, and falling across the high-rises of Manhattan is smooth and often joyful, mitigating, to a point, the thoughtless open-air traversal that bogs down so many sandbox adventures. Despite these marvelous mobility mechanics, moving above the city skyline can sometimes feel like a chore. He says he would stay up late watching episodes of The Tonight Show and The Late Show on a black and white television in his bedroom growing up. Farley recalls watching a particular episode of The Late Show with David Letterman that still sticks with him. Mission points often arrive far away from your current destination, encouraging you to swing miles across the urban jungle of New York City. Much of this feels designed to highlight the vastness of your urban environment or cynically to extend the game's length. Rarely, at least after the first couple of hours, is it fun or meaningful. There isn't a pervasive sense of danger, or an abiding potential for discovery and exploration. In the episode, Letterman calls out to his executive producer, Robert Morton, while the cameras are still rolling. There's plenty of side content along the way, sure, but like the early Assassin's Creed games, many of the side missions are tedious and duplicative. In fact, with its radio towers, busy work, and map cluttered with icons, Spider-Man on PS4 is very much an open-world throwback. Farley says it was his first glimpse of what and who is actually behind the shows we see on TV, and he knew from that point on that's the job he wanted to have. As fate would have it, Farley says he actually had the chance to meet and interview for a job with Letterman's producer, Morton, earlier on in his career. He not only ended up getting the job, but Farley says he and Morton are still friends to this day. Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley once created his own talk show. Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley's career has not been without its ups and downs. Where modern games like The Witcher 3, Breath of the Wild, and the other big 2018 PS4 exclusive God of War are making open-world experiences more about creative exploration and problem-solving, Insomniac's marquee title is, in the vein of last-gen adventures like Assassin's Creed and Sleeping Dogs, more about checking off a long to-do list. Spider-Man makes matters worse with several side-kick main missions, where players leave Spidey behind and control either Mary Jane Watson or Miles Morales in momentum-killing stealth, investigation sequences. The energetic pacing of the game slows to a crawl and players must embrace some tiresome trial-and-error stealth action. Farley is known for his work leading bigger-budget syndications, but some might not know that he once created his own talk show, after founding his own production company, Cypress E Productions, Inc.
While working for VH1 in 2013, Farley launched a pop culture roundtable called The Gossip Table. According to VH1, the show was meant to bring together an exclusive panel of celebrity insiders to deliver the day's hottest gossip and pop culture news. The Gossip Table ran for 2 years, becoming a regular weekday program on the network. These episodes, which no one asked for, are the low point of what is, despite its adherence to an archaic open-world format, a near-great superhero game. Final thoughts: Spider-Man is a promising first try for Insomniac. However, the show was cancelled in 2015, as VH1 struggled to improve ratings amid the cable network decline. Despite the ups and downs of showbiz, Farley has said the best parts of his job include learning so many things about the world, and all the new people he gets to meet. The combat system is deliriously fun, moving around Manhattan is almost uncannily intuitive, and there are suit options aplenty. A sequel, stripped of sidekick missions and featuring a more organic urban playground, might take the title, Best Superhero Game. For now, though, Batman: Arkham Asylum wears that crown. One of those people happens to be Giada De Laurentiis. Shane Farley met Giada De Laurentiis 2 years before they started dating. Shane Farley and Giada De Laurentiis first met in 2013 through professional channels. Farley was hired to produce a show with De Laurentiis and her good friend and fellow Food Network host, Bobby Flay. While it turns out that show didn't have a future, Farley and De Laurentiis sure did. While it's less ambitious than its sequels and lacks the finesse of Spider-Man, its planful pacing, winning action-adventure formula, unique events, and controlled atmosphere make it a more complete, more satisfying video game. Thank you for reading. Please leave your thoughts and also any recommendations about other games and genres that might be featured in this series. More articles. But there wasn't a romance right off the bat. At the time of the project, both De Laurentiis and Farley were still married. After De Laurentiis and her then-husband, fashion designer Todd Thompson, split in 2014, the chef says she took some time for herself to, in her words, rest and reset. Eventually she reconnected with Farley in 2015, and the two have been together ever since. While sources gushed that the two fell in love right from the start, their relationship has not been without its share of controversy either. Shane Farley's relationship with Giada De Laurentiis started when he was still married. Giada De Laurentiis was very much divorced when she admitted she was dating Charlie Farley in late 2015, but he was still technically married at the time. Turns out, Farley was in the process of splitting from his wife of 15 years, personal trainer Jennifer Jamo, when the media first started reporting on his relationship with De Laurentiis. Adding to the drama, it's even been reported that Jamo first learned of the relationship between Farley and De Laurentiis after reading about it in tabloids. At the time, De Laurentiis' rep told Page Six that her and Farley started dating in August, several months after he and Jamo had filed their divorce papers in March. But the timing of it all still raised eyebrows, and fueled tabloid rumors that they had been having an affair. Jamo reportedly wanted to try and take De Laurentiis to court over it, but a legal battle never ensued. Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley isn't very public on social media. A lot of what we know about Giada De Laurentiis' boyfriend Shane Farley comes from his professional record and media reports. The producer himself seems to be pretty private on social media, especially in recent years. Farley's Instagram account is private. His Twitter account is public, but it appears he hasn't used the account in more than 2 years. Meanwhile, Farley has been spotted several times on De Laurentiis' social media accounts. Most recently, he appeared in an August Instagram post from De Laurentiis' account promoting the season finale of Giada at Home 2.0, which Farley helps De Laurentiis produce from home. In the post, the smiling couple appear to be having a meal at De Laurentiis' home with her daughter, Jade. It looks like the couple make a good team both on and off the set. In behind-the-scenes video from Giada at Home 2.0, the couple can be seen playing and laughing with each other when Farley isn't over De Laurentiis' shoulder filming her in the kitchen. Shane Farley has a good relationship with Giada De Laurentiis' daughter. Whether they are helping Giada De Laurentiis shoot an at-home cooking video for her show, on vacation with family, or just hanging out at home, it's clear that Shane Farley has a good relationship with De Laurentiis' daughter, Jade. Farley spoke about it to People in 2018 saying, "I really enjoy hanging out with her." He mentioned in the interview that he doesn't feel like he has to step in and be another dad to Jade, and that has helped their relationship. "Jade has got 2 amazing parents, so I can be a part of her life without any pressure," he said. Jade's dad is still very much in the picture, and he's been spotted in some of De Laurentiis' Instagram posts celebrating big moments for their daughter. In that same People interview, De Laurentiis confirmed she and her ex-husband still get along after their divorce, saying, "We're supportive of each other and, in turn, supportive of Jade." Giada De Laurentiis and boyfriend Shane Farley share a lifelong love of Italian food. Shane Farley himself is half Italian, and he and Giada De Laurentiis both share a deeply ingrained love of Italian food. She may be the trained chef, but that doesn't stop Farley from taking charge in the kitchen sometimes, too. De Laurentiis told Today Food that Farley likes to cook for her on special occasions, like Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, even if he may be a little intimidated. According to De Laurentiis, he needs time to prepare though. She told People, he has to plan, it's like a week-long planning session if he's going to cook for me. We don't blame him. Making dinner for a professional chef has got to carry some pressure with it. De Laurentiis admits that she'll give him a few pointers in the kitchen, but Farley isn't bothered. He told People, she's not trying to show that she knows more than me or she's teaching me, she's really rooting for me. When De Laurentiis is the one doing the cooking, she says one of his favorite dishes she makes is her short rib lasagna. Will Shane Farley and Giada De Laurentiis ever get married? After 5 years together, many are wondering if Giada De Laurentiis and Shane Farley will ever tie the knot. De Laurentiis has reportedly confessed she isn't ruling out getting married again. When she was asked about it, she apparently said, "I'm never going to say never." There are rumors, however, that she's already turned down one proposal from Farley. Reports started circulating at the end of 2018 that Farley had in fact popped the question, and De Laurentiis declined. According to sources at the time, De Laurentiis wanted to stay focused on her daughter and her career. Neither Farley or De Laurentiis have confirmed whether the rumors are true. Only time will tell if there are wedding bells in the future for this couple. But we're willing to bet many of her fans would be thrilled to see De Laurentiis say, "I do," again. We're already picturing a Tuscan hillside wedding and a lot of pasta on the menu.